Welcome back to Studio X's Intro to Blender workshop. This is part 2, and we're going to move on to the character mesh portion of this workshop. Before we get into Blender, let's talk about how to create a concept art. This will help us speed up the modeling process and give us a better understanding of how our character is shaped. You want to make sure the concept art is in a front view of your character, and alternatively, you can also add a side view. Feel free to add in features and limbs. Object versus edit mode. Before, when we were creating our abstract render, we were primarily using object mode, which is the default mode in Blender where you can move, rotate, and scale. But if you go into edit mode, you can then edit the specific model you have selected and edit the vertices, edges, and faces. Now, let's go over our objectives for today. We're going to create our character's head, torso, limbs, and learn how to customize them. Before we actually start 3D modeling, let's think about how your NPC can fit into shapes. We're going to keep our NPC's head, arm, torsos as separate models for easier editing, and we'll also be learning proportional editing. And finally, I want you guys to think of your meshes like Play-Doh. You can bend, twist, extrude, and shape them around just like Play-Doh. Now, let's open up Blender and create our 3D character. First, let's upload your references into Blender. We'll be learning how to import a reference image into our viewport and rotating it so it faces the view that we're using. Now, right here, I have a general Blender setup. So we're currently inside of the viewport, and I'm just going to hit 3 to make sure that we're in our, let's hit 1 so we're in our front view, right? And you're just gonna go all the way up here to add, and then you're gonna see there's a section called image. You wanna click on reference, click it, and it's going to open up your files, and you're just going to find the reference image that you're using. Mine is currently in my desktop, and it's this image right here called Blurp, and this is the character that I'm going to be modeling off today. So right now, it should be facing right on the y-axis or your front view, okay? And you can, again, snap it back into place by just pressing 1. Now, let's learn how to make the head of our character. Make sure your layout is set up in the solid viewport and your transparency is on. We're going to be using our reference as an outline for our model. Now, currently I have a cube in my viewport, so I'm just going to delete this real quick, right? And for our reference, I'm just gonna slightly move it back on the y-axis. You can do this by selecting it, and right here in object mode, there's going to be this move icon, and these arrows will appear. You're just gonna click and drag it back a bit. All right, that way whenever our mesh appears in the center, it won't overlap with our reference image. Now, for Blurp, I can see that his head is pretty circular. So for me, I'm going to be adding in a sphere. So I'm gonna go to add, mesh, and then UV sphere. And now we have our UV sphere, and we're just going to align it with our reference image. Currently, I can't see Blurp behind me, and that's because my transparency isn't turned on. So what I'm gonna do is that there's this little button next to our viewports, and you're gonna toggle it, right? That way you can actually see see your reference image in the background, while also still being able to see your mesh slightly, okay? Going back into my front view, I'm just going to try and outline it. So I'm going to go into edit mode, I'm gonna hit tab, and now that I'm in edit mode, I'm going to try and shape the UV sphere that I have so it fits over Blurp's head. So let's see, I think for now, I can probably just actually scale on the Z-axis, just like that. So I'm pressing S and then Z, scaling it just a little down, just so it looks more like an oval, okay? And I'm gonna move it so it's right aligned on top of Blurp. And again, just gonna go in and slightly adjust. There we go. All right, now we have Blurp's head. Like before, let's save our blend file, that way we won't lose our progress. So I'm just gonna go back in here, and just like before, since this is a new project, we're going to hit File, Save As, and then I'm going to say again, save on my desktop, and I'm gonna just name this Blurp, because that's the name of my character. And you should see it as a .blend file, and you just wanna save. Now, let's make the torso next. Same as the head, we'll be using our reference as a guide and learn how to extrude. Make sure to turn on your models to on the side to check if it's proportionate or not. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna create the torso of Blurb, right? I'm gonna go back into my front view, and Blurb's torso looks a bit like a cylinder to me. So I think that's what I'm gonna start off with. I'm gonna hit add, mesh, and I'm gonna click on cylinder. Now we have a cylinder in our viewport. So I'm just going to scale it down in object mode real quick, right? And probably align it to where Blurb's head would be. And I'm just going to use the arrows to help me move it up and down. And you can of course use G to help you do this faster, right? Now, I'm going to teach you guys how to extrude within edit mode. So I'm going to hit tab, and now you're going to see I'm in edit mode, and you can see that you can see the vertices and the edges now too. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make my mode into select faces, right? And this way I can select the bottom part of Blurb's torso right here, and I can use that to extrude. So I'm going to go back to our front view. That way we're aligned with the concept art, right? I'm going to press G just to make sure it's like aligned on the lines of where Blurb's torso is, right? And I think right here should be about pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is going to press E, and you're going to see it's going to create like another layer, right? And after pressing E, you also want to click to finish the transformation. And I'm just going to press S to scale it out a bit because Blurb's torso is like a bit roundish, right? And we're just going to do it again. And S. We're going to press E, click S, E, click S, E, click S, and we're going to scale it inwards this time. E, click S, E, click S, and I think just about there would be good, right? As you can see, it's not totally perfect with our concept art, and that's totally fine. So don't worry about it too much, okay? Now we have Blurb's body right here, and it's starting to look pretty good. Now, let's talk about modifiers. Modifiers are automatic operators that affect an object's geometry and can help speed up your work. There's a lot of different kinds of modifiers, but we're going to get used to using the mirror modifier in this workshop. Moving on to the body parts, same as before, we'll be using our references as a guide and using the mirror modifier to speed up our process. Now, just like before, I'm going to try and find a shape that will correlate with my torsos, right? And not my torso, my bad, my limbs. So I'm going to try and model Blurb's arms real quick, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in, and I believe this can go well with maybe a cylinder again. Actually, no. Let's try UV sphere. All right. Now that we have our UV sphere in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my mesh is selected, right? I'm going to go down to this little modifier right here called, and this little blue wrench right here, and this is where you're going to find your modifiers, right? I'm going to click add modifier, and I'm going to click hover over generate and click on mirror. All right. And since we're working along the y-axis, we actually want to mirror across it just so it will appear. So I'm going to show you guys real quick how this will look like in edit mode. And again, I just press tab to get into edit mode. As you can see, since I'm mirroring along the x-axis right here, it's actually mirroring across it as well. So whenever I edit this mesh right here, it will also affect this one. So just like that, like if I do anything on this side, it would affect the other side, right? Which is pretty cool. So just like before, we're just gonna try and trace our concept, and I'm just gonna mess with my model here real quick, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to use proportional editing right here. So let me stop selecting my mesh, right? And there's going to be this little circular icon up here called proportional editing, right? And you just want to click it to make sure it's on. It should be blue, okay? Afterwards, I'm going to show you guys what it does. Now, I'm going to grab the bottom part of this sphere right here. I'm going to go back into my front view, right? And I'm going to hit G to move it. Now, as you can see, it's like slightly stretching it, but my proportional editing right now, the size of it is too high. So I'm just gonna lower it to maybe 0.5 and see how that would affect it. Now, since I'm trying to align it with my reference, I'm going to grab the opposite side of the spear, and we're going to press G again, and you can see it slowly getting there, right? And I'm going to just click R to rotate, just to move the limbs in, and you're just going to like grab certain vertices. This vertices is within this part. You're going to grab certain vertices and just going to click, right? Just to outline it right on top of your limb. Okay, just gonna edit it a bit more, just like that. Slight edits. Okay, perfect. All right, now it's completely outlined. All right, now if I get out of X-ray mode, you're gonna see my limb's a bit weird. I'm probably going to edit it on the side too, make it a bit thicker. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit S and then Y to like make it a little fatter, like that. All right, perfect. And you can also see that my torso is also not like fully aligned, right? There's actually a way for you to align your mirror modifier on a certain object, right? I'm gonna click on my limbs, and you're gonna see that in my modifiers, there's like this mirror object option right here. Okay, you're gonna hit this little eye drop icon, right? And you're gonna make sure you click on your torso. Now this way, it's mirrored on the torso and not actually on the origin, which is pretty cool. All right. And just again, like before, let's do the same thing quickly with the legs. For the legs, I think I can use a cylinder this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a mirror modifier, right? Make sure it's mirrored on the x-axis. Move it down. Now we can see it. Make sure you're in edit mode for this. And I'm just going to scale it down and try to align it with the reference image. Oh, almost forgot to turn on X-ray. There we go. I'm going to again go to face select so I can grab the bottom part of the cylinder and we can extrude with it. Extrude, scale a little bit for S, a little bit of scaling after extruding. E, click S, E, click S, E, click S, and then maybe inwards right here. E, click S, E, click S, and E, click S. All right. Now, afterwards, if I then now exit edit mode, oh, the limbs are a little bit on the side, so I'm just gonna slightly move it so it's actually aligned in the center of our mesh, again like before, and I'm just gonna move it up a bit just to edit it around, and there you go. Now we have our limbs. Now that we have the base of our model, let's add some custom features. Remember to use your reference as a guide and use the mirror modifier if needed, and extrude, bevel, and subdivide. So, right here, my special features is going to be these little antennas that Blurb has, right? And how would I go about making these? Well, I see this circular shape right here, so I'm thinking maybe I can add in a UV sphere again, right? And since Blurb has these circular shapes on both sides of his head, I'm going to add in the mirror modifier again, and hit tab to go into edit mode, and scale and move our mesh again. So I'm going to hit S, right, try to align it, there we go, just like that, and don't worry about it overlapping into Blurb's head, but just to have like a circular thing right here. All right, and I can also see that on the ends, Blurb has the another circular part on the ends of this antenna. So what I'm going to do is doing something we learned before, which is Shift D to duplicate. And now I have the same ball, right? And I'm going to just scale it down, just like that, and put it over our, just like right here, put it over our reference image, okay? And now I'm going to need like a sort of like a cylinder to like go through the head to make the antenna long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add, I'm going to hit cylinder, right? And I'm going to do something really cool here. I'm going to rotate it, but I'm not going to care too much about trying to get it into perfect 90 degrees, but instead I'm going to click, right? And you're going to see this little icon down here, and you're going to open this, and you're going to see the angle that you actually rotated at. And to set it right at 90 degrees, you're just going to click and just type in 90. All right, that way you don't have to worry about it being a little bit off. Now I'm just gonna scale, right? I'm going to then scale on the x-axis to create a long cylinder, just like that. Just gonna scale it down a bit more and probably trying to align the cylinder to the ball, just like that, okay? Perfect. Now, just like before, we're gonna save right here. So what I'm gonna have you guys do is either press Command S or go into File and Save, okay? Don't be afraid to start from scratch. Feel free to learn with a cube and trace the shape of whatever you want to make. All right, I'm gonna show you guys how to do this real quick. So, what's really cool is that what if like there's a shape, right, that we don't have in our primitive objects, right? And I wanna make, let's say, a sprout on Blurb's head. What I actually do is I'm gonna start with a cube, right? And I'm gonna bring it to the side here. And we're going to just try and extrude this and turn this into like a leaf shape, okay? For my sprout, of course. So I'm just gonna scale this down a bit, right? I'm gonna go into edit mode right here, right? Leaves aren't this thick, so I'm just going to scale on the z-axis to bring it smaller a little bit, right? And then I'm going to grab this end of our cube right here, and I'm gonna make sure I'm facing the facing the z-axis. That way I can make sure it's perfectly aligned on top. So again, just grab it and then press 7. Afterwards, right, I'm just gonna move it in a bit and I'm gonna scale. But make sure you guys, whenever you guys are scaling on the y-axis, okay? And the reason for that is, look, if I scale, right, it's going to scale on all dimensions, but I only want it on the y dimension just so it doesn't turn the leaf a little bigger, okay? Going back into the z-axis, I'm going to again just E to extrude, click, and then scale, but on the y-axis. E again to extrude, click, and then S, Y to scale, E, and then click, and then S, Y, E, click, S, and then Y, click, E, click, S, Y, and just like, as you can see, this like the leaf shape is forming a bit, right? And now it kind of looks a little weird, so I'm gonna just open up X-ray mode again, right? And I'm gonna click on the edges instead. I'm just gonna try and shape this a little better. So I think, oh, that it should not have done that, but I think something like this works. So let's try making this bit a bit smaller too, and so is this part. And bring it down a little bit. All right, as you can see, I have this like little nice leaf shape going, right? Okay, perfect. Now that we have that, I'm going to now just add some edges in the middle. And how you're gonna do that is that when you're in edit mode, right, there's gonna be this bunch of tools on the side here, and you're gonna try to find something called a loop cut, right? Once you click on it, you hover over your mesh, you're gonna see this like yellow line right here, and this is the cut that's gonna make if you actually do decide to apply the loop cut. So I want the loop cut to be in the center, so I'm just gonna click down, right? And now, as you can see, if I go out of X-ray mode, the vertice does appear here, okay? What I'm gonna have you guys do is just to drag select the middle part, like that. Oh, my mistake. Make sure you guys are facing the z-axis again, and just hover over the middle part, right? I'm gonna have you guys do is just bring it down a bit, and make sure you have proportional editing on. So just like that, right? And now you can see that our leaf is a bit indented, which is pretty cool, right? Just like that. Perfect. Now what I'm gonna have you guys do is use the mirror modifier. So I'm gonna add a mirror modifier to this, and then we're gonna have, oh, they're overlapping a little bit because it's trying to mirror on the object's origin, which is this orange dot right here. I'm just gonna press A to select all of it, and then drag it out a bit on the origin, right? And let's just turn it a little bit just so it looks like it's like a sprout almost, right? All right, perfect. Now that we have this, let's add in a stem to make our sprout. And I'm going to click on cylinder for my stem. I'm gonna just drag it over by pressing G, right? And clicking, scaling it down, and then pressing S and then Z, scale up And now we have a little sprout. And see, perfect. Now that we have this, right, I'm just gonna drag and select our sprout. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I'm on 1, which is the front view. And I'm gonna just move it on top of Blurp's head. Okay, it looks a little big, so I'm just gonna scale it down, just like that. And we're gonna stick it right here, okay? Just to make sure that it's laying in the center. Perfect, okay. All right, finally, let's polish our model. We want to make sure all the mirror modifiers are applied, and we can shade smooth or add subdivision surface modifiers onto our model to make it look smoother. Afterwards, we'll combine our mesh into one model. So, how do we do this? You just want to make sure that all your mirror modifiers are first applied. So let's click through all of our meshes, and afterwards you're gonna make sure that you're in this blue wrench modifiers icon, and you're gonna see this little downwards drop arrow. You're gonna click on it and hit apply. And we're just gonna do this for every other object that we use a mirror modifier on. So just like that, like my antennas, I'm gonna click on the down arrow, hit apply. On my limbs, I'm gonna hit down arrow, hit apply. On my legs, I'm gonna hit down arrow and apply. And I'm just gonna check, make sure there was nothing I missed. All right, perfect. Afterwards, you can tell Blurp is a little bumpy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on the parts that I wanna shade smooth. And you can know whenever you're selecting them by seeing this orange outline. You're gonna right click, and you're gonna hit shade smooth. All right, and I'm just gonna do this for all the other parts of my model that needs to have shade smooth on. All right, there we go. Now you don't have to see the ridges on him, okay? Perfect. After you do all that, right, you just wanna select your entire model. So what you could do is you can zoom out and then just click drag to make sure you have everything selected. Make sure you don't accidentally select any other objects like the light or the camera. Again, just gonna select, right? And then afterwards, you just wanna hit shift and then click on one of the objects to make it the primary object. That way, when you right click, you can hit join, okay? Now, my character is one mesh and a singular mesh instead of multiple meshes. Thank you guys for coming to part 2. Stay tuned for part 3, where we will be adding a material onto our 3D character. Bye.